October 21, 2024, News Report 1. On October 21, 2024, the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet announced that a U.S. missile destroyer and a Canadian frigate passed through the Taiwan Strait on October 20. This occurred shortly after the People's Liberation Army conducted a half-day military exercise around Taiwan on October 14. The statement indicated that the U.S. and Canadian warships were navigating in the high seas of the Taiwan Strait and did not enter the territorial waters of either side. This operation demonstrates the commitment of the U.S. and Canada to uphold freedom of navigation. The U.S. Navy routinely passes through the Taiwan Strait each month, occasionally accompanied by ships from other allied nations. Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu expressed gratitude on October 21, praising the emphasis that like-minded countries place on peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, emphasizing that maintaining the freedom of navigation in the Taiwan Strait aligns with not only U.S. national interests but also the common interests of the entire Indo-Pacific region. Additionally, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense reported that on October 20, 14 PLA aircraft and 12 naval vessels were active around the Taiwan Strait, with 7 aircraft entering Taiwan's Southwest Air Defense Identification Zone. News Report 2. With 15 days to go before the U.S. presidential election, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are campaigning in key swing states this weekend. October 20 was Harris's 60th birthday, which she spent at a church in Atlanta, Georgia. Harris visited 2 black churches in Atlanta that day, urging African American congregants to uphold compassionate values in the face of hatred, fear, and chaos. During the event, singer Wanda performed a birthday song for Harris and called on voters to consider the needs of the entire society when voting, rather than just individual interests. On the other hand, Trump visited Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on October 21, where he worked at a local McDonald's for half an hour. He changed out of his suit, donned an apron, and, after receiving some basic guidance, personally operated the fryer to make fries for customers and served those at the drive-thru. A poll released by the Washington Post on October 21 showed Trump with 48% support and Harris with 49% in 7 swing states. The Associated Press found that on tax issues, 46% supported Harris while 30% supported Trump. Additionally, Elon Musk began hosting events for his Political Action Committee, America PAC, on October 19 and issued checks of $1 million each to 2 supporters in Pennsylvania on the 19th and 20th. Musk pledged to distribute $1 million checks to supporters every day until November 5, with participants only needing to sign a statement for a chance to win the prize money. In response, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro expressed concern over Musk's distribution of money to registered voters, calling for an investigation by law enforcement, arguing that this practice may involve improper voter influence. News Report 3. According to Axios, Israel submitted a document to the U.S. last week outlining its conditions for a diplomatic resolution to the conflict in Lebanon. The first condition is that the Israeli military be allowed to take proactive measures to ensure that Hezbollah does not rearm or rebuild military bases near the border. The second condition is to strengthen the operational capabilities of the United Nations and Lebanese forces to reduce the necessity of Israeli military actions. Israeli officials stated that the higher the operational capacity of the UN and Lebanese forces, the less the Israeli military would need to intervene, and vice versa. Additionally, the office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that Hezbollah launched a drone attack on Netanyahu's private residence in West Jezreel on October 19. Netanyahu and his wife were not at home at the time, and the attack did not cause any casualties. It is reported that Hezbollah sent 3 drones, one of which hit the building, while the other 2 were intercepted. Netanyahu later issued a statement accusing Hezbollah of attempting to assassinate him and his wife with support from Iran, calling it a serious mistake, and vowed to continue fighting to ensure Israel's future. The Israeli military revealed that on October 19, Hezbollah fired 115 shells at Israel, resulting in 1 death. On October 21, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin stated that the U.S. has deployed the THAAD missile defense system to Israel, accompanied by 100 U.S. soldiers. The THAAD system is expected to be operational soon. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson Haris Hagari stated that on the evening of October 20, the Israeli Air Force carried out airstrikes on Lebanese financial institutions linked to Hezbollah, aiming to cut off their funding sources. On the same day in the morning, the Israeli Air Force also targeted Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters, command center, and underground weapons factory, killing 3 Hezbollah commanders. News Report 4. According to Radio France Internationale, the first defense ministers' meeting of the G7 was held in Italy on October 19. After the meeting, a joint statement was released, which includes the following main points. First, the G7 expressed concern over the recent military exercises conducted by the People's Liberation Army around the Taiwan Strait, reiterating that maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait is of utmost importance. Second, the statement pointed out that China's territorial claims in the South China Sea lack legal basis and strongly opposed China's dangerous practices of militarizing disputed islands, obstructing freedom of navigation, and using Coast Guard and maritime militia for coercion and intimidation. Third, the G7 expressed concern over China's support for Russia's economy and the transfer of dual-use products to Russia, demanding that China cease such actions immediately. Fourth, the G7 firmly supports Ukraine's resistance against Russian aggression and condemned the expanded military cooperation between Russia and North Korea. Finally, the statement condemned Iran's direct military attacks against Israel, calling for Iran to cease its support for Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. The G7 also called for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza region, the release of all hostages, and an increase in humanitarian aid. News Report 5. The Sunday Times reported that the UK will sign a historic defence agreement with Germany this week. This agreement covers multiple areas, including defence, intelligence sharing, energy cooperation, and combating illegal immigration. Key points include: First, the agreement will allow British and German troops to conduct joint military exercises on the eastern border with NATO adjacent to Russia, with possible locations in Estonia or Lithuania. Second, both sides will jointly procure weapons and collaborate on the development and production of next-generation weaponry. British Defence Secretary Grant Shapps stated that this agreement paves the way for joint military operations between the UK and Germany, ensuring that their forces are at the forefront in facing threats from Russia. Sources indicate that this military agreement between the UK and Germany marks the first step in military cooperation between the UK and the EU. The UK plans to engage in more substantial military negotiations with the EU next year. News Report 6. China's stock market saw a slight increase as it closed for the year, with the Shanghai Composite Index ending at 3,268 points, up 0.2%, and the Shenzhen Component Index at 10,470 points, up 1.09%. The total trading volume for both markets was 2.18 trillion yuan. The main reasons for the stock market increase are twofold. First, the People's Bank of China officially lowered the loan prime rate, LPR, on October 21, with the one-year rate dropping from 3.35% to 3.1% and the five-year rate from 3.85% to 3.6%. This marks the third reduction of the LPR this year, with a cumulative decrease of 0.6 percentage points for rates above 5 years, aimed at addressing economic slowdown. Second, on October 18, the People's Bank introduced special loans for stock buybacks, allowing listed companies to repurchase their shares through loans, thereby driving up stock prices. By October 20, 23 listed companies had disclosed agreements with banks, totaling over 11 billion yuan in loans. This funding primarily comes from special debt loans issued by the People's Bank. Additionally, the China Securities Regulatory Commission imposed fines on 11 securities firms on October 18, with Kaiyuan Securities and Special Zone Securities suspended from bond underwriting for 6 months due to their failure to diligently handle bond projects. News Report 7. On October 21, the National Assembly of Vietnam voted to elect Le Quang Duong, the permanent secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party, as the new president of the country. His term will last until 2026, covering the remainder of the previous president's term. Le Quang Duong, 67, hails from Phu Tho province in northern Vietnam, has a military background, and holds the rank of general. Since 2016, he has served as the head of the General Department of Politics of the Vietnam People's Army and became the permanent secretary of the Central Committee in May of this year. His appointment is seen as a representation of military power and interests amid Vietnam's recent political instability, during which 4 presidents have taken office or been removed in 2 years. His predecessor was Su Lin, who was subsequently elected as the General Secretary of the Communist Party and handed over the presidency to Le Quang Duong. Vietnam has returned to a collective leadership system known as the Four Pillars, where the General Secretary, President, Prime Minister, and Chair of the National Assembly are held by 4 different individuals to prevent power concentration. Currently, the General Secretary is Su Lin, the President is Le Quang Duong, the Prime Minister is Pham Minh Chinh from Thanh Hoa Province, and the Chair of the National Assembly is Tran Thanh Man from the southern Hà Giang Province. This regional distribution is considered a means of maintaining balance among regions. It is noteworthy that Le Quang Duong visited China from October 9 to 12, where he met with Chinese President Xi Jinping and Party Secretary Kai Chi, an engagement regarded as a ceremonial diplomatic activity prior to his assumption of office. News Report 8. Japan's House of Representatives will hold election voting on October 27, just 1 week away from the election. Recent polls indicate that the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, is continuing to lose support. According to a poll by Asahi Shimbun, the LDP may not maintain a majority in this election. The House of Representatives has a total of 465 seats, with a majority requiring 233 seats. Currently, the LDP holds 247 seats, exceeding the majority, but polls suggest that the party may lose around 50 seats, potentially falling below 200 seats, well short of the 233 needed for a majority. The main opposition party, the Constitutional Democratic Party, is likely to gain significantly in terms of seats, but polls also indicate that 40% of voters have not yet clearly expressed their voting intentions, meaning the election outcome remains highly uncertain. Additionally, Kyodo News conducted polls on October 19 and 20, showing Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's cabinet support rate at 41.4%, while the disapproval rate stood at 40.4%, with a narrow 1-point gap. In previous surveys, the cabinet support rate was higher than the disapproval rate by 5 percentage points, but the current narrowing of the gap indicates that Ishiba's cabinet faces significant risks. News Report 9. According to Radio Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Civil Service Bureau submitted a document to the Legislative Council on October 21, revealing that 51 civil servants were dismissed in the 2023 fiscal year. This number is an increase from the average of 39 dismissals per year over the previous 5 fiscal years. Since 2019, a total of 1,073 civil servants have faced disciplinary actions, including 214 dismissals. The document did not provide specific reasons for these dismissals. The document noted that common reasons for civil service violations include non-compliance with government rules or orders. Additionally, in the 2022 fiscal year, 21 civil servants were dismissed for failing to meet the government's vaccination requirements. The Civil Service Bureau also stated that the Hong Kong government plans to introduce a fast-track dismissal procedure this year, starting in October for probationary civil servants, to address misconduct, which could result in warnings or immediate dismissals. Some commentators believe that the Hong Kong government's increased efforts to regulate civil servants may be related to the Chinese government's tightening control over the Hong Kong civil service system. Traditionally, civil servants have their own values and codes of conduct, and in light of new political demands, some civil servants may be unwilling to adapt, which could be a potential reason for some dismissals. News Report 10. Radio Free Asia reported that on October 16, more than 100 medical staff from Shantou People's Hospital in Guangdong Province staged a protest against the government for owing them 2 months of wages and bonuses. Videos showed medical personnel holding signs reading, "We want to eat," and chanting slogans, demanding the hospital director address the bonus payment issue. They stated that only 3 departments in the hospital had received their bonuses for August, while other departments had yet to be paid. Due to low base salaries, medical staff primarily rely on bonuses to make ends meet, leading to their strong dissatisfaction with the delay. Shantou People's Hospital is a public tertiary hospital with over 600 beds and more than 900 staff members, making it one of the main medical institutions in the area. The protest by medical personnel reflects the financial strain faced by healthcare systems across China. In recent years, there have been frequent incidents of medical staff protesting for unpaid wages in various regions, such as on October 11, when staff at the 4th People's Hospital in Xinxiang, Hunan Province, protested unpaid wages for up to 8 months. Last December, medical staff at a traditional Chinese medicine hospital in Suining, Sichuan Province, also staged a collective suicide threat due to wage arrears. According to data from the National Health Commission, there were 2,508 public hospitals in China in 2020, with 44% operating at a loss and a debt-to-asset ratio of 44%, highlighting the serious financial difficulties faced by medical institutions. News Report 11. According to the Liberty Times, the Kaohsiung Customs recently stated that purchasing the Chinese snack, Huang Feihong peanuts, is illegal because the product will be confiscated by customs and subject to fines. Huang Feihong peanuts, produced in Yantai, Shandong, are popular for combining peanuts with chili and Sichuan pepper, and many people purchase them through Chinese online shopping platforms to send to Taiwan. Kaohsiung Customs pointed out that there are 53,000 farmers in Taiwan who grow peanuts, with an annual production of 67,000 tons and a market value of 3 billion new Taiwan dollars. To protect Taiwan's peanut industry and the livelihoods of farmers, the Ministry of Economic Affairs has banned all peanut imports. Therefore, Customs stated that peanuts brought into Taiwan from China are illegal, and all Huang Feihong peanuts sold in the market are considered illegally imported goods. E-commerce platforms must remove these products, and stores are prohibited from selling them. Additionally, Kaohsiung Customs reminded the public that food items brought back from China, such as garlic, enoki mushrooms, dried shiitake mushrooms, tea, noodles, rice flour, and rice, should not exceed 1 kilogram. These measures aim to protect the interests of local farmers and producers in Taiwan. News Report 12. According to Australia's SBS television, the Federal Court in Sydney ruled on October 21 that Qantas Airways must pay $170,000 in compensation to 3 employees who were dismissed during the pandemic. The 3 employees will receive compensation of $30,000, $40,000, and $100,000, respectively. The judge stated that the compensation is based on a ruling of wrongful dismissal. In November 2020, Qantas dismissed 11,700 ground staff, including baggage handlers and cleaners, subsequently outsourcing these jobs to lower-cost contractors. In response, the Australian Transport Workers Union sued Qantas. The Australian courts ruled in both the initial and appeal hearings that Qantas's layoffs were unlawful, but the airline chose to appeal. Ultimately, the High Court of Australia upheld the federal court's decision on September 20. News Report 13. According to the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, an increasing number of Canadians are opting for unpaid extended leave, with vacation durations ranging from 6 months to 2 years, to travel with their families rather than waiting until retirement. In the past, people typically chose to travel upon retirement after decades of work, but the trend is shifting towards more employees wanting to enjoy mini-retirements or intermittent work-life balance during their careers. The Canadian Human Resources Association states that taking extended leave has become a trend as people are no longer willing to wait decades to travel.